Welcome everyone, and welcome to the first NATECLA Scotland online forum of 2026. Really excited to have everyone here. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat, maybe tell us a little about your teaching context, because that would be useful for the speakers as we go through the session. And yeah, we can't actually believe it's been over 2 years since we launched the ESOL Scotland Literacy readers. So it's a great time to kind of reflect on what's happened since then. And Hannah and Cash are going to introduce us to some new things as well. So I'm basically going to pass it straight over to Hannah and Kasia, and yeah, they'll be telling us all about the ESOL Scotland readers. So enjoy, everyone.
Can I just butt in as well and say if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring. We also have time for questions, but if something crops up, feel free to write it and we can come back to it. Okay, lovely.
Okay.
Kasia, off to you. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Oh, sorry. Thank you for coming along to our online forum. I realized while we were planning this forum that it's been just over 2 years since I did my last one, which was as part of the launch of our ESOL Literacies readers. Maybe some of you were there at the time, or maybe you're just discovering the library now. Either way, we're really glad to be able to come back and talk to you all about the work we've been doing with them in the meantime. Before I start, I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to send us feedback and suggestions for new topics for the readers. This slide shows a few of the comments and suggestions we've received. Um, at this point, if you've used any of the readers, it would be really helpful if you could maybe let us know in the chat which ones you've tried, how you've found them, how your learners have found them, and maybe what what activities you've done around them. Just gonna give you a couple of minutes just to see if anyone has used the readers. Ah, for homework. Okay, great. Yeah, and Jacqueline's used them. Great. Okay. Um, oh, it's oh great. Dave says he uses them and promotes them as homework. And great. That's great. It's really good to see that they're being read and to get feedback about them. I've the books have been read are being read all over the world. It's from Finland to Brazil to Singapore to the Isle of Man. And some of them have been read over 8,000 times, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. We are listening to feedback, and there are more books in the pipeline. We're using some of the suggestions that we've received from you guys, and as well as some more ideas of our own. And we'll let everyone know as we add to the library. Something else that we're always being asked about is practical resources to help people make the most of the readers in class and just generally to use with ESOL Literacies learners and in ESOL Literacies classes. And that's really what we're here to talk to you about tonight, because while we've been away, we've been working on some free printable activities to go along with the readers. So tonight, I'm going to give a mini recap of what we talked about back in 2023 in our last forum, which was mainly about why we created the readers and the ideas of and some ideas of what you can do with them. Then I'm going to take you through one of the printable activity books that we've created, and we'll explore the ways that you can use the different activities with your groups. And then I'll hand over to Kasia, who's going to talk about what you can do when you've finished all the readers and you've finished all the workbooks. So If you're new to the readers, there is a QR code on the screen, and I hope we're going to stick the link in the chat so you can have a little look while I'm talking. So it's time for what has sort of become my trademark mini disclaimer when I do a forum. Um, so some of you might have years of experience. Some of you might be new to ESOL teaching. We really want this session to be accessible to all of you, whatever your experience, whatever your teaching context. With that in mind, some of what we talk about might seem really obvious. But I know from my own experience of coming to these sessions that sometimes people share things that seem like they would have been really obvious, but I've never thought to try them. And I always go away with something new to try. On the other hand, if we gloss over something and you feel like you need more detail, just ask in the chat or make a note and ask at the end, and we'll do our best to clarify. So now that's out of the way. Let's get started. The ideas for the NATECLA Scotland ESOL Literacies readers came from our own experience as ESOL teachers. There was, and still is, I guess, a growing demand for ESOL Literacies level classes and a lack of suitable resources. You could find things that were written for adult literacies learners who were native speakers or who had a higher level of English. For children, or you could find things that were from the US and Canada. There were some UK-based readers available, but they weren't free. And yeah, while I've used many of the Bow Valley College readers from Canada and the Minnesota literacy stories with with success, there were just a lot of things in them, words, spellings, concepts, cultural things that needed to be highlighted or to be explained to groups of learners who were living in Scotland. So we wanted to make readers that talked about life in Scotland, that reflected a culture, a language, and a place that learners could recognize. We wanted them to be free so that anyone could use them, whatever their teaching context and budget. And we wanted them to be easily accessible to learners, to teachers, to volunteers on a mobile device, if that's all they had. So we got together as a team, and using Book Creator, we created a library of readers that are roughly at two levels of difficulty, using some of the topics from the North American readers as a starting point, along with ideas of our own. And a couple of the books are based on texts that came from language experience lessons with some of our groups. Our colleagues on the committee and friends and family were recruited to record the audio so that learners, if they were listening while reading along, they could hear a variety of accents similar to what they might hear in their everyday life. So far, so good. But what can you do with them apart from reading? So in the launch forum, we had many, many, many slides of ideas um, that we can probably divide into sort of the traditional categories of before, during, and after reading. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll just do a really brief kind of summary. So before reading, you can do your prediction and vocabulary activation type activities, looking at pictures, things like that. Read the book out loud while the learners follow along, or they can read it in pairs or in groups. And then after reading, you've got a whole lot of things that you can do, retelling or summarizing the story, true, false comprehension questions, gap fill exercises, vocab exercises, copying, reordering, loads of things. Um, and then there's what I'm calling the after reading, which is what Cash is going to talk about later. So that's all very well, I hear you say, but we're all very busy people and we can't be spending hours making flashcards and cloze exercises. It would be really nice if there were some ready-made activities for us to get started with. Funny you should say that. I'd like to introduce the newest addition to our NATECLA Scotland ESOL Literacies Readers family, which is our ready-made printable activities, which we've made available on Padlet. Again, there is a QR code on the screen. So, and there will be a link in the chat so that you can have a look now or later. I'm going to show you the Padlet and take you through the activities for one of the readers. Okay, so let's have a wee look. You can all see that. This is the Padlet. This will be linked to from the ESOL Literacies page on our website. And we're also in the process of adding a link to the end of each online reader, which will take you to the activities for that reader. So you can see that we have a section for each of the readers. And in each section, you've got the printable activities, you've got a printable reader, and you've got the online reader. I'm going to refer to them as workbooks from now on, just for ease of, well, shortness, basically. But they're not necessarily designed to be worked through from beginning to end, page by page. They're more like a selection of activities that you can choose from. The worksheets in the workbook kind of vary in difficulty from matching and tracing words to matching sentence halves to kind of traditional gap fill exercises. And as you can, well, you might be able to see, we've got workbooks available and ready for all of the lower level readers. Those are the light green ones on in the library, and we're working on the higher level ones, which are grey, and they'll be following soon. Um, all of the workbooks follow more or less the same structure with the same type of activities. There are one or two with slightly different activities or additional activity, depending on the amount of vocabulary and the length of the reader. And But the core activities, we'll go back to this one, are matching, tracing, word shapes, write the first letter, word search, sentences to cut up and reorder, sentences to cut into words and reorder or match, true, false exercises, some punctuation exercises. So you can write the full stop, so you can write the capital letters. There are matching sentence halves. There are gap fills or, listen and complete. And there's error correction. So, of course, sorry, I need to go back to my, I've lost it. There it is. Go back to this. Of course, you could print the whole workbook and go through all the activities page by page if you wanted, but you don't have to. The idea is that you just print what you want to use, whatever's useful for your learners. Maybe they're working on, I'm just going to open one now. Maybe they're working on letter formation. So you just want to do the word tracing activities, or maybe the word shapes to work on the sizing of letters and help with whole word recognition. Or maybe they're up for a bit more of a challenge, so you want to jump straight to the gap fill exercises or the error correction. It's completely up to you. Let's have a look at one of the workbooks and talk about how you can use each of the activities. There's more than one way to use pretty much every worksheet. And you can maybe think of things that I haven't. We're going to look at the supermarket first. Well, we're going to look at the supermarket, partly because it's the first one you come to in the Padlet, and partly because it's the first one we created and it kind of formed the template for all of the others. The first few pages of the exercises are really kind of all about vocabulary. You might want to look at them with your learners before you even read the book to get them familiar with the words that they're going to read. Or you might want to do one or two of them as pre-reading tasks and then do the others maybe after you've read the book once before you do anything else, or both. So the first page here is a sort of classic picture word matching exercise. It's got all the key words from the book, all the things that Ahmed buys from the supermarket, plus the other nouns that are in the book. Um, you don't have to start with this one. It depends on your learner's abilities. Like I said, you might want to start with the letter tracing or the letter shapes. Um, if reading and matching is too much of a challenge at first. So I'd start by asking the learners to name the things they can see in the pictures, or you say the words and have them point to the pictures, or both. You can have the learners draw lines to match the words to the correct pictures, like you see in the example, or you can have them copy the word under the picture. This works better with some of the other worksheets where there are fewer pictures and a little bit more space. Um, the another thing you can do is you can cut the words and the pictures out and have them match them that way, and then stick them into their notebooks and write the words there. Um, okay, next one is a word search, and I found a lot of my learners really enjoy word searches, even those with very low literacy who don't necessarily know what the word is, can often manage to find it in the word search and circle it. It really helps with left to right tracking. Some of the workbooks have diagonal words, but there are no backwards words in any of them. I think it'd be too confusing when we're sort of teaching that English goes from left to right to then expect them to reverse it and then reverse it again and not get confused. And I suppose the only variation really I can think of to a word search is you can make it more challenging by removing the words from the bottom and displaying the pictures somewhere and asking them to write and then find the words. I sometimes do this with numbers actually, where I've got a word search with the numbers as words, but the key is just the numbers, and they have to write the word and find the word. So obviously, it's something you probably do towards the end of your time working with the book when they're really familiar with the words or as a revision task. And it would be for learners at the upper end of literacies, I guess. It's quite a good way to kind of revise vocabulary and sort of test spelling in a different way. Uh, Next, we have a word shapes activity. Like I said, these are good for helping with whole word recognition and for practicing correct sizing and placement on the line when writing. Again, you can just have them do the worksheet as it is, or you could get them to cut the words and the pictures out and stick them in their notebooks together with the completed word shape. In my experience, you probably need to demonstrate a couple to them so they get the hang of it, and be explicit that it's not just about the number of letters in the number of boxes to the number of letters. Next, a tracing activity for learners who are still working on letter formation. For some learners, this might be the first thing you do, naming the things in the pictures first and then looking at the letters and letter sounds as well. Okay, moving on. We have a write the first letter activity. Again, start by naming the things in the pictures and having your learners identify the first sound. You could write some letters on the board and have them choose the correct one. and copy it, or if they're confident with the alphabet, they can do it independently. And while you're looking at the first letter sound, um, you can notice where the same sounds appear elsewhere in other words and whether they're spelled the same or differently. The sh in sugar versus the sh in fish, for example. So um, you can be noticing the phonics in the whole word as well as the first letter. Um, Page 6 has all the sentences in the book, and you can cut them out and reorder them. I've jumbled them up already here because I like to give them to the learners to cut out, and if I've got them in the right order already, it feels a bit like cheating. So I've already jumbled them up. So there's lots of things you can do with this. You can have them put the sentences in the right order, listen to the story and do that. But sometimes that might be too much of a challenge. So you can have them match the same sentences. It works quite well in small groups. You pick up a sentence, read it out loud, show it to the group if there's just a small group of you, and then have them find the one that's the same. Or you could have an already reordered copy that they put their sentence on top of the sentence that matches. Um, they can listen to you read the story and order the sentences as you read. Then they can read the story sentence by sentence. They can order the sentences from memory, maybe. And then once they've done that, they can stick all the sentences into their notebooks one by one and then copy them. When everyone has the story in with all the sentences in the correct order, you could read the story with some of the sentences wrong and have them shout "Stop!" when they notice one that's in the wrong place. Um, Maybe you could match the sentences to the pictures from the first activity. Um, and you can also use these sentences for a running dictation for if you've got a livelier group who's confident with reading and writing. Then we have next a word unjumble. And all the things you can do with the stuff on page 6, you can do with the individual words as well. I usually just do it sort of sentence by sentence rather than having the whole story in words in front of people, but it depends on your group. Um, and when you're putting the words together into sentences with a book like this one, which has a lot of repetition of the same sentence structure, it's quite a useful thing to have them noticing that he buys carrots, he buys apples, he goes, he pays. And when they're doing that, they notice the structure and the repetition, and it's good for remembering. Um, what else? And for building confidence in that. So page 8 here is about punctuation and capital letters. When you're reading the story and doing all the sentence reordering exercises and things, one of the things that you'll probably do is count the sentences and talk about what makes a sentence. And you'll probably have talked about why we use capital letters and when we use full stops and things. And so these exercises just help to reinforce all of that. Mhm. The next one is kind of a true false. It's a yes, no, or don't know exercise. Um, I I would probably do this one before any of the other ones, and I'd probably initially just do it orally, while you're reading the book or just after, and then I'd give them the worksheet later. Um, it depends, but it depends on the group. Um, some of the worksheets, like this one, have got built-in examples for you to do together before they then can do them by themselves. They don't all have that because some of them are quite short, but you can always do the first one or two um, together as a group. Um, Depending on the level of the group, you can read the sentences to them and have them say yes, no, or don't know. Or you can ask them to read the sentences and do the same. You could initially make it kind of a physical thing and having them go yes, no, I don't know. Or you can give them um, cards with yes, no, or a question mark on them and have them hold those up when you read the sentences um, before they write on the worksheet, just to so they're confident that they've got the right answer. Um, Next, we have matching sentence halves. Again, you can do this on paper as it is, and then ask the learners maybe to copy the full sentence into their notebook, or you can cut it up and have them match that way. You can enlarge it and have the learners work in pairs or groups, or have it stuck up on the board and do it as a class. Then next is error correction, which is a bit more challenging. Um, if you wanted to make it more accessible, make it easier, you could give them the reader or the full correct text and have them have them alongside and do it like that. Or you can just ask them to try and identify the errors without the reader and then check. You can show this on the screen or on a smart board if you have access to it, and do it together as a class. Or you could enlarge it and have them do it on their table in a small group. And let me see. Yes. Last but not least, we've got a couple of different gap fill or listen and complete exercises. So you can you can have them read the text to each other in pairs, and one of them's listening for the missing words and writing them. You can give them the words on the board and have them put them into the correct gaps. You can, yeah, or you can see if they can do it from memory. Or you've got two there, you could put them in pairs and do a sort of jigsaw reading if they're a little bit more confident. So that's all of the different activities that are in kind of all of the workbooks. There are some variations. Um, some of the workbooks have slightly different activities. Hannah's Garden, for example, we'll just have a look at this one. It has a sorting exercise here instead of the word shapes because there's just so many words. And also, it's a useful thing to sort things into categories as well. And then I Feel Good has two versions of a lot of the activities because it has phrases like go for a walk, eat healthy food. We've done sort of a slightly easier version of some of the vocabulary activities that is just the word, and then a slightly more challenging one that has the whole phrase. Um, yeah. Uh, have a look at them, try them out with your groups. Let us know how you get on with them. I think you've probably heard enough of me talking. So we are um, going to do breakout room just now and give you a chance to digest what you've just heard and to talk about the activities and to have a think about these questions. Maybe you've got more ideas of ways that you can extend or adapt the workbooks. Maybe you've got ideas of additional activities you'd like to try, or that you've already used, or that you'd like to suggest that we add. Anyway, so yes, I think Emma's going to put you into some breakout rooms for about 10 minutes to have a chat.
Yeah, the breakout rooms are just being created. And yeah, you'll have 10 minutes and we'll bring you back automatically. But if you do have any questions in the breakout room, if you have any problems, you should be able to raise your hand or call for help, and one of us can pop in and try and help. So I will send you all to the breakout rooms.
Okay. Oh, everybody's coming back now. Uh, Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've had some good chats. I was just wondering if anyone wants to give us any feedback on what you talked about in your groups, any adaptations or extensions of any of the activities that you've thought of, or any extra activities that you'd like us to add. What did you talk about? Does anyone want to just unmute yourself and chime in?
We spent quite a long time just saying how much we love them, actually. That was
Oh,
most of our discussion. Because there's nothing as accessible as these. If you want to give students something for self-study, in terms of like not just in terms of the grading of the language, because you find a lot of material websites or apps, and you think, oh, this might be good for my students, and after your heart sinks eventually because you realize that's way too difficult,
hmm
or the technology is way beyond them sometimes.
hmm
Even if they've got to click 3 or 4 times, you just know some of them are going to get lost, or most of them, to be honest. And this one, you send them a link on Teams or WhatsApp or whatever, and they're pretty much straight in there. um some of us were saying we might use them in class a bit or a lot. Some of us were saying we might use them more for homework. I like them for homework because I like I was saying earlier, if I've got my context, I really want to try and give them more and more homework. It's really difficult to give them any sort of homework. These are really accessible. So I love just, here's a link, read this at home. What one thing I was saying in my group was that ultimately I want them to read these aloud without the audio. So I do a
Yeah.
little bit in class where I show them the audio. So take advantage of that audio, and we model it, use the audio, read it, but then say to them, look, after you've done that as many times as you like, 2 or 3 times, then turn the audio off, because ultimately you want to read that without the audio. One thing we did say that I think would be quite interesting is give it to them for homework with that audio, and maybe give them. I think I might print off some of the worksheets and give them some of those for homework because they're accessible as well. So they've got even more homework. And then perhaps in class, get them reading it aloud
hmm
together and see how that's helped them at home. See if they've done all that at home. And then we're back in class. Can they read it aloud? And I think they might quite enjoy that. And it'd be quite interesting to see how that's helped. I think it should have helped them, I think.
Yeah, report back when you try it. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to share from the breakout?
Um, one thing, hiya. One thing that I mentioned is just trying to insert the learner into one of the stories that exists and just changing certain things for the experience that they had had. So
Mhm.
the supermarket, that's super accessible, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Ahmed's not going shopping, you know, who
hmm
else is going shopping and what did you buy? And
Yeah.
then they have like the formula in front of them and just hoping that that would connect something else in the brain. That was just my,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
for that,
definitely.
Jacqueline. I'm going to talk about that idea in a moment, actually. So thank
Yes.
you.
So, does anybody else have anything they want to share?
I think we were kind of saying in my group how great it is for students' confidence. You know, you can say to them, you know, you have now read a book, and you
hmm
can see them going, oh, and okay, it's graded, but Like sometimes even they haven't seen anything that's appropriate for their level before. So when they actually see something, it's just really it's so user friendly, it's not daunting, and just building their confidence and exactly what Dave was saying, building those study habits as well as keeping them, especially the lowest levels, you just really want them to practice outside of class.
Yeah.
And it's getting types of resources that mean they can do that on their own without you there supporting them. So yeah, we were again just lots of praise. It's so useful and yeah, teacher's dream, really. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Okay, shall I hand over to Kasia, who's going to talk about the after reading stage?
After party, yeah.
Kasia, you're muted.
Sorry, I knew I was going to do something like that. Okay, so Hannah, thank you so much for your part. Now, I'm here to tell you about the idea we had to talk about creating DIY readers with Book Creator. And my journey is that when the NATECLA readers were launched, I started using them a lot in my classes. And then I started making worksheets at the same time as Hannah starting making worksheets, and then we put them together. So that was one part of the project. But at the same time, I started making readers of my own. And as somebody mentioned, you can create your own and use them as teaching material. But what I was focusing on mostly was making readers with students. And my part of the presentation is going to be basically sharing my experience of doing that. So I'm going to tell you where to start, how to prepare for these projects. And I'm also going to touch on possible problems you might encounter on the way. There will be time at the end for questions, or you can pop them in the chat. I would like to tell you about a possible order or timeline when you do this. So something you have to consider first and foremost is obviously your students' literacy level and English level, but also the digital literacy. So I always say baby steps and take it slow so it doesn't become too daunting. I was saying in one of the breakout rooms that Book Creator is so intuitive and user friendly, but still, start small. So the first idea of a project I have for you is to copy and personalize, not copy and paste. And I think, Jacqueline, you said that at the supermarket is a very good one to use for that kind of project, because you can just, change the very minimum. You could change the name, perhaps change the, from a male to female, and change the things the person buys, but keep everything as it is. Another one that is very good for that would be our school. So you could go and take photos of your place, put them into the book, and create the text. So an example that I want to share with you is this one, which is called We Live in Perth. And this one doesn't have the voice yet. I'm still looking for a nice Perthshire male actor to ask a favor. But this one is based on all the We Live in readers, so We Live in Glasgow and so on. So of course you could do We Live in your city, We Live in your town or village, your region, or even your country, because we know that the readers have been used outside the UK. So there's really no end of fun here. So as I said before, the idea with this timeline is that the difficulty potentially increases as you go. So now the second idea for the project is one that I call make a list. And this is very useful, especially if you have classes that have little continuity and students changing all the time, because you could create something like a digital vocabulary box, and make it a vocabulary book. So it could be as simple as putting an image of the word you're looking for, the word itself, and the recording of the word, and then perhaps on the next page a sentence with that word in it for context. And this can keep on going and going. You could do the same with a pronunciation book, where the focus could be more on the particular words your students are struggling to pronounce. My first one was the P and B difficulties. But this can be completely your own. You could also create a phrase book with classroom language or with useful phrases for being polite, asking for help, asking for directions, all sorts of things. My favorite though is a class profile. So I sometimes do it to quite at the beginning of the school year to create an activity that unites the class. And the one I want to show you. Oh, one thing before that. So the class profile could, of course, be profiles of the students. So perhaps their photos if they wanted to, and some information about them. It could be a profile, a short profile of the countries they come from, but it could also be something like this. So this one I made with a group, and it's called We Can Do Many Things. It doesn't have the voiceover, but it has pictures of different activities, and then we counted how many people can do this and that, how many people can't. This was like a class survey kind of thing. And it was a really nice one to make together because, you know, a lot of the students said, oh, but we can't speak English, we can't speak English. So instead, we focused on so many things they can do and can do very well. So it was a really uplifting project. And then, yourselves, the humor is always there. So nobody can play football like Messi. And it was real fun. And I really liked the title. It was something like a very positive one to have. Okay. And then last but not least, there's the third level, and I called them start from scratch. So that's when you have gained some experience with using the book creator options and the platform. And this one for me was like a natural progression from a typical learner experience approach class. And then I just thought, oh, this is perfect. We could just have it, in Book Creator and use it for longer and do all sorts of things with it. I know that here some people might be wondering if how workable this is with a bigger group, because you might only have that one laptop. My experience and would be my experience is that it's best when you start with a group, because then you're the guide and you're the leader, and if you have students who are unfamiliar with digital platforms, then you can hold their hand. And then perhaps when you've done one or two, you could set it out as more individual work in little groups, or even pair work. I have never tried it, but I think it would be really good to do in a one-to-one setting, or one teacher, two students. Maybe you can tell me about that later. So for this kind of project, I think that there is a script and there is a story. So it could be something like a comic book or a photo story. When I started making these, I thought about, teenage magazines where there is a photo story with a simple plot and text to match. So there are some things that you need to plan carefully when you do something like this. And you're going to have to write the script together with your group, come up with the ideas, write them down, and then practice the script a lot. And if you want to use photos taken by students, then you need to plan that as well. And so plan the photos you will need to take for each shot if you want, and make a list of those, and then go down the list and create the photos you need. I'll show you an example in a moment, what I mean exactly. But of course, then you have to then as well take the photos. So I'm going to show a reader that was an end of term project, and we were told, okay, every group is doing something. You need to produce something to show. Now, I'm not a singer. I'm not into drama. I thought, oh dear, what can we do? And then I said, oh, of course, we can do a book, a book creator book. And we had been working on making all sorts of appointments for quite some time at that point. And then I thought, okay, so let's just make a book about making an appointment. And my students really enjoyed this one. And they started the script. They came up with the story. We put it down. We practiced it a lot. And then the best thing is they really took control of the project. And the photos, a lot of them, they took the photos without me being there. So, in their free time, they, took enough photos. So here's what I meant when I told you before that it's good to make a list of how many photos you need and what kind of photos. So you can see here that this is a phone call, and we needed enough different photos of the two people in the phone call to cover every line. So it was different angles, it was, close-ups, different hand gestures, and so on. So it was a lot of fun. And then after that, potentially the most difficult thing is when you have the book and then you need the last, you need the icing, and you want to record their voices. So I'm going to talk about the technical aspect of that later. But it was really rewarding and so empowering for the students to be able to do it. So I really recommend being adventurous and just going for it. I just need a drink of water. Okay, so now I'm going to talk you through some questions that you can ask yourself before you start. The first one is quite obvious, but then it's not very obvious when you're in the middle of it. So think about it carefully. What equipment do you have at hand? Do you have a laptop or multiple laptops? Do you have a screen? Do you have a reliable, internet connection? Do your students have phones that are connected to the internet? Now, please bear in mind that you cannot create books on Book Creator on your phone. However, you can read the book on the phone, obviously. So that's something to bear in mind. Then, again, an obvious one, how much time have you got? Here, I really want to say one thing. If you decide to do one of those make your own from scratch projects, I would say add in the planning, add an extra class. So one class that is free. You have nothing for it specifically, but you might really need that because there might be some technical difficulties. You might have, an actor missing one day. You might not be able to record the voices when you wanted to. So it's really good to have that buffer. And yeah, it can, especially if you then want to showcase the project somehow. The next thing to consider is the space you've got. So, especially for the recording, when I did it, it was always possible for me to go to another room and close the door, and just record with the students who volunteered to do it with me. If that is not possible and you don't have that space, you might have to come up with some creative idea about how to do it. I was thinking, well, perhaps you could meet those students 10 minutes before or after class and do it that way. Perhaps if the class is comfortable enough with one another, you can do it in front of everybody, but be very, very careful with that idea because it can be very daunting. You know yourselves what it's like. It's one thing recording your voice, then it's another thing hearing your own voice. That's not a pleasant experience to anybody, I think. And then that's another level when you have to do all that in front of others. So think about that. Um, Another thing to think about is, do you get the same students in every class? So, as I said before, the copy and personalize or the make a list readers are much easier to do when you don't have continuity because you can keep adding to the book and it is not as personal. If you wanted to do a scripted one, a story, then it's good to have at least some of the same people in it. My advice would be for taking the pictures, plan the pictures really well, and they take all of them on the same day. So you definitely have that student that is going to be the star of the show present. And then what happened to me with the project that I showed you was that the initial voice actor had to move to a different city. So we had to, come up with, look for another volunteer. So the person you can see in the reader is not the person whose voice you can hear, but that's okay. And nobody or hardly anybody knows about it. Then again, as I mentioned before, think about the level of your students also in terms of digital literacy. And think about as well their confidence and their willingness to have their photo taken and used in the book. Not everybody might be comfortable doing that, or you might have one of those superstars in front of you who is dying to do it. So know your students and ask them what they want to do and how they want to participate. Some students might be the face of the project. Other students can do a lot of work behind the scene, and that's one of the very positive things about it. Okay, now the last part I want to talk about is whether to go for recording a voiceover or not. And there are two potential problems. And the first one is timing, because doing the voiceover will take more time. But it's worth it. So that's the first problem to think about. And then the second one is confidence. So I think if you have students who are very shy, who are feeling unsure, then you will need more time for that. Or maybe you just want to skip it and maybe you do the voiceover. Maybe you ask your friends to do it. I have something that I always ask myself to help myself through the situation is, what's the worst that can happen? And I think the worst that can happen is that you'll have to do it yourself and just finish after class. For you, it will just take 5 minutes probably. And then I remind myself that the best case scenario is that the learners do it and they'll be so satisfied, so proud of themselves if they do. So it's worth pushing for it. Now, if you do decide to use the voiceover, here's just a few tips. The first one really cannot be underestimated. Practice it with the whole class a lot. When I do it, I like to think, okay, I want every student to be able to be the actor if they were happy to do it as a volunteer, but they need to be able to do it. They need to have, that control of the text and the pronunciation and the intonation and everything. So practice a lot, and you can use all the ideas that that Hannah talked about for some of the activities for the readers. You could do those. You could do, group reading, correlate reading, pair reading, individual ones, listening, a lot of listening activities, just practice, practice, and practice. And, they'll be learning so much language from it. And then you will know that they will be able to do the recordings at the end. Always ask for volunteers after your practice, and hopefully you have many who want to do it. And another technical thing to remember is that at the end of it, when you're recording, you need something to keep the others busy. So what I would normally do is create my own worksheets for our activities for the book we have created. You can always share the book without the recordings in place with the students so they can work with the text and do activities. So that's something to put in there. Okay, I believe that's everything from me. So if you have any questions now, then or sorry, Emma, is it Emma and Gosha, was it questions first or breakout room first? I'm just checking the time as well.
I think Hannah said maybe we can put people in breakout rooms to have a little bit of
Breakout
chat
rooms
about
first. Yeah.
the
Okay.
after, and then we
Cool.
can bring them back. So we've had a few
Fantastic.
people drop out, so I'll recreate the breakout room so you maybe with
Okay.
different people, and we'll give you another 10 minutes again. I think, it was
Okay.
just to kind of talk about what Cash has been talking about. And did you have any particular questions, Cash?
Yeah, I do. So I haven't really gone into a lot of detail about what kind of readers you could be making with your students. So have a think about that. Ideas, what could it be that you create with your students? Perhaps within those three categories that I've suggested, but perhaps something completely new comes up. So if you were to start making a reader with your students on Monday, what would it be? Would it be with the voice, without the voice, and so on?
Super. So I will open the breakout rooms and then they can all go talk about, what readers they would like to create with or without voice. Okay, I think that's everyone back, Hannah. So I'll pass that to you and Kasia.
Somebody asked about on the chat how many books you can have on the free book creator, and we found out it's 40. So that's quite a lot, actually. If you pay for book creator, you get 1,000. So sky's the limit. And just to clarify again, there was a technical question as well I thought I would answer, and that was, can the students work on the reader on their phone? And the answer is no. They cannot edit the reader or add to it or create it. They can just read it, just like our readers we share with students. So you need a laptop, a computer, or a tablet. Hannah said a tablet works. To be able to edit the reader. So when I did the making an appointment, the end of term project, I had a group of around 20, 25 students, and I did it with one laptop and one screen, and they were using it on their phone, but not editing. Yeah. So do you have any ideas to share? Was it Ellie? You had a lovely one. If I can put you on the spot.
Oh, of course you can. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was thinking it would be nice to do something about maybe learners' favorite places in the city or the town they live in. Learners quite often have a favorite park or cafe or space. But I was also actually thinking we do quite a lot of class trips in our organization when we can, and it would be nice to maybe make a book about the class trips. So maybe take them out somewhere, and then it's a reason to take pictures as well. Kaja and I were saying, and then the story of what you did that day.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other ideas?
Do you mind if I go again?
Not at all.
I was just saying, so based on the feedback of our learners of like, what have you done in your community? What have you joined any groups? We've been doing SQA assessments based on what's in your community. So it would be a really nice way to round off the term to be like, okay, let's get out and we'll find the evidence and you'll say what we can do there and just, yeah, developing like a summary of the term. I thought it'd be lovely.
Thank you. Anybody else with ideas?
We talked about using it to reinforce vocabulary. So if they were out and about and they saw something and they don't know what it is, like to take pictures sort of throughout the week. Because oftentimes when you ask students, like, is there anything like, during the week that came up, they can't remember. But if they can take a picture, you could have them bring it in. And then as a group, you could sort of use the pictures to develop sentences and reinforce the vocabulary of like, what is this? Oh, it's a Christmas tree or a sign or something like that to use that.
Okay. Thing on the chat, Janet has written some recommendations are a good idea. So child-friendly places and free activities, international supermarkets. Yeah, like a kind of guide to a place from a certain angle. That's a lovely idea. Thank you. I think I shared a very simple idea, which is a recipe book. And that could even be, on paper, you take a photo of it, take a photo of the food and just put it in. So it doesn't have to be, really complicated. It can be a very simple thing, but still, somebody said, I think Elliot, it was you have now read a book, and then the next step could be you have now created a book or a photo story, and that's they are so proud of themselves when they do. So, okay, I think that's all from me. Emma, Gosha.
Yes, we've got 5 minutes. It's just if anyone has any final questions about maybe making the books or using them, or just any comments or questions that they want to make, really.
How did you find using the book creator, just in terms of design and usability, and how was it?
I find it really user-friendly
Nice.
and easy. So I don't know if you have used it, but it's very intuitive. And my kids use it. They're 6 and 9, and they create their own books with glittery backgrounds about dogs and their adventures, and they figure it out. So it really is. I could share an example, but they haven't given me permission. So
Thank you.
We also
Katrina had recommended, sorry to interrupt, but Katrina had recommended, sorry, was it Russell Stannard? Katrina, have I got that name right? So the YouTube video from Russell Stannard that kind of guides you how to get to grips with it. You'd recommend.
I can also skip a comment from Jenny about students didn't want to be photographed. I always have this problem. So in past, I just use photos of things they've done, maybe. If they were working on something, I remember we had this one lesson, people probably have done it before, this team effort where you're building towers with spaghetti and marshmallows. And basically it was just their hands in the photographs, or if they did little kind of star with maybe their name or something about themselves. It's just a picture of what they've written. And then the recording was them speaking about it. So there's ways about it, because some people don't want their faces to be out there. So understandably.
Or yes, it's Mana's saying it's easy to filter photographs so they look like artwork, and you can use Canva and things, and that's a really good way
That would be a nice book. Yeah.
disguising their faces. I think I did that when I made YouTube videos years ago, and I used photos of my actual family and I cartoonified their faces so that they wouldn't get annoyed about it.
I think Emma has put a link. I was about to say that there is a webinar by NATECLA Scotland. Emma goes through Book Creator and shows how to do it. So, but that other video somebody mentioned might be very good as well.
Yeah.
So.
There was another link that was shared. I think Dave was asking about, creating boxes for different words and how that could be quite fiddly. I think Kasia shared a link to the website.
Yeah, I shared a link. Hannah, which one do you use for the word shapes? Because I'm sure you have
Oh, I can't remember. There is a font. There are fonts you can download, but they're not as good as the online generators. And I think it's probably the same one that you used, but I think it will be on my Padlet somewhere.
I can, in case anybody missed it, I can reshare it just now in the chat.
Yes,
okay.
good, because I can't find it. I'm just looking for it.
So this is for the boxes, guys.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
I think
the
that's
word
the one.
shapes.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a bit faffy, but once you've done it a couple of times, and then I don't know how you do it, Hannah, but I was creating it, then I love PDF. You know, cropping and turning into from PDF to another format.
Because it's not the one that you make, the one that you generate from that website it's not aesthetically very pleasing. But
yeah,
it
so
does
you
what
might
it
want
needs
to
to
just cut
do.
out the boxes themselves. Yeah, but I'm sure there are other ones, and I think we can have a better look.
And there are also fonts that you can download for free that do that. And that's how I did the tracing as well. It's a font, tracing font. So.
Well, great. I think if no one's got any more questions or comments, I think we can wrap up there. So thank you so much, Hannah and Kasia, for all the hard work you put into the reader's library itself and all the activities, and also for delivering the session today. As I said, the session was recorded and you'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel. Hopefully be up by the end of the week, if you want to share it with colleagues, but definitely by the beginning of next week, it will be up there. So yes, please do share both the library, the resources, and the recording with any colleagues or friends that you may have. But thank you, and enjoy your evenings, and enjoy Traitors. Anyone who's going to rush to the computer to their TV screen to catch up on Traitors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.